over, Spider Boy. There's a new book in town, and it needs room in your short box. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swaggle Haas. And in this video, we need to talk about the latest, greatest, hottest book of the week. Of course, we need to talk about Star Wars: The High Republic Quest for the Jedi #1. First appearance of my all-time favorite Star Wars High Republic character, Barnabas Vim. I've been a day one Barnabas Vim fan for the longest time, since yesterday. So in this video, we need to talk about the market here. Apparently, if you were somebody who wanted to invest in Star Wars High Republic books, you would do a lot better than putting your money in, one of the oldest bank institutions in the country, First Republic Bank. I mean, this book sells for 5 times the value of that bank's stock right now, which is absolutely wild. So in this video, we need to kind of do a market report, talk a little bit about this book, talk about what is going on, and kind of unpack everything that has been happening with the Star Wars High Republic books. I mean, it's pretty insane. I feel like the High Republic books, week after week after week, keep being the hot books of that particular day, of that particular release. I mean, I don't know what it is. Every single week, we keep getting new first appearances. And I have to ask, do we really expect all of these characters to show up on a Disney Plus show at some point in the future? But before I get into it, if you guys drop me a like, comment, subscribe if you're enjoying the content, help support the channel, do one of those things, I appreciate it. But let's get into this video here today. Of course, the book, like I already said, that we're talking about is Star Wars: The High Republic Adventures Quest for the Jedi #1. First appearance of Barnabas Vim. There you see him right there, ladies and gentlemen, all his glory. He's got the green lightsaber, which means he's probably wise and stoic, like Qui-Gon Jinn. Also, you get the first appearance of his Padawan, who is otherwise known as Bly, I believe. Maybe a Twilight, I believe, right there. Yes, Padawan Bly. First appearance of these two characters. And, it's really interesting. This has, become the hottest book of the week. Everyone is forgetting about Spider-Boy. Everybody is now on the Star Wars train. In fact, it feels like the Star Wars books have been some of the only books out there in the market that have consistently remained fairly hot. I mean, we're not necessarily talking about all new record prices across the board, but generally speaking, when we're talking about hot lists and excitement and what's kind of moving in the comic book market, it does feel like Star Wars books have had that kind of momentum behind them. I mean, we're coming off of the heels of, the Flash trailer. We got the second one there. We got Transformers, Rise of the Beasts. I mean, we have Guardians of the Galaxy 3 next week. And it feels like nobody in the comic book collecting market cares about any of those movies. No books are moving in relation to those, yet the Star Wars books, the Star Wars ones remain hot. I mean, actually, a little bit of a sidebar. Can we talk about how we have Guardians of the Galaxy 3 coming out next week, and it feels like nobody cares? Like, isn't that wild? It feels like nobody cares. I know what you guys are thinking. Swaggle Haas, I care. I'm very excited to see the movie. I care too. I'm excited to see the movie too. But, generally speaking, as far as like hype factor is concerned, it feels like, the Guardians movie is not as exciting as what it maybe was, being talked about, say, a couple months back. And I think that has to do with, the MCU fatigue. I think a lot of people burned out on, Quantumania. And, there's a lot of reports right now that Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is not going to have a good opening weekend, which is pretty concerning, I would say, if you're Disney and Marvel. But we will see what happens when we get to that video, or we get to that movie next week. And I'll probably do a video about some of the market reporting on the books related to that, because I do think that it is pretty interesting. But let's get back to this topic right here. Star Wars High Republic Adventures, lighting up the lamps in all of the sales. And you can see, I mean, just pages and pages and pages of this book going on the secondary market, just since it came out, yesterday, effectively. And I mean, look at some of the values here. I mean, we see, the cover A here selling for $30. We see a pre-screen 9/8 going for $170. that is a decent amount of money for a new comic book to sell 170 pre-screen 9.8. And here's another one right here, 160 pre-screen, slash price of 32, slash price of 25. We got the lots. There's a cover A and a cover B for this book, selling at that $60 price point. Here's another $60 price point. Here's another $54 price point, another $50 price point. Pretty decent sales for a new comic book that has a retail value of $5. And, you can see, they got the A cover and the B cover. It's funny to me because they look kind of the same. I mean, we have very similar blocking. We're on the water here, some rain effects, got the lightsabers out. I mean, I suppose if you like cover B because it's a little more saturated, the pink and the green lightsaber pop a little bit harder. But, that's always kind of funny that the covers are the same. But hey, to each their own. But either way, this book absolutely blowing up in the market right now. I mean, it is pretty wild. It's pretty wild overall. And I guess where I think this is really interesting as it relates to, the comic collecting market and the Star Wars books is like, I have this pulled up right here. Star Wars High Republic comic books. It feels like every single week, for the last 2.5 years or so, these books have been coming out, and every single week there's this is the key this week. This is the first appearance of this Grandmaster. This is the first appearance of this Jedi. This is the first appearance of this Padawan. And every single week, the market hops on these books. I mean, remember this one? Remember Star Wars The High Republic? When this one came out in 2021, early 2021, had all these first appearances of all these characters, Trennis, Scare. Everybody was talking about all these books. You had this one right here that kind of popped off in the market. You had this one right here, Star Wars High Republic 7, first appearance of Orla Jareni. People were excited about this one because it had something to do with the Acolyte. Well, nobody cares about this book anymore. I mean, a Barnabas Vin sells for more than that of that book. Remember this one right here, Star Wars The High Republic, Adventures. We had these characters. We had Marchion Ro. Everybody was talking about this book for a while. Nobody cares about that one anymore. Remember we had this annual one. I remember when this one was the hot book that week. I remember when, this book was the hot book that week, except for the fact that it's an origin story and nobody cares about the origin story and everybody wants first appearances. But this book right here, this one was also the hot book that week, The Monster of Temple Peak. I remember when everyone was excited about that one, and a bunch of these books. I remember when this one came out, Trial of Shadows, there were some variant covers and stuff that everyone was excited about. First appearance of Sion Holt, first appearance of Emmerich Captor, first appearance of Kafar Bronto, first cameo of Bill Zettifar. I feel like IDW and Marvel right now, at least in the Star Wars side of their publishing, understands the secondary market. Because I feel like all they do is put first appearances of Jedis and Padawans and Grandmasters in all of their books. And they realize that gets people to sell because a lot of people are speculating on these books with the assumption that they're going to go up in value. I mean, isn't that why a lot of people are buying it? I mean, again, guys, I'm not an expert Star Wars person. Maybe characters like Barnabas Vin, this is what the whole story has been building up to, and this is the big payoff, and Barnabas is going to be, the Luke Skywalker of the High Republic era, and he is the most important character there is. Or people just want to speculate on these things because they think they're going to show up in a Disney Plus show. But what can we really expect? What can we really expect from the values of this book? I mean, right now people are buying Quest of the Jedi for, $30, but look at these books that were hot, once upon a time too. I mean, now you can get High Republic 1 for $15 here with the best offer. I'm sure you could get it for $10. This one right here, you can find copies for, $10 with this character. This character now, a bunch of $20 with best offers. I mean, here's another one, $10. I mean, you can buy this one for not a lot of money. And don't these characters have just as much of a chance to show up in a TV show than that Barnabas Vin does? And, we have to ask ourselves, like, what is the ceiling for these books? When I think about like the characters that have actually showed up in Disney Plus TV shows, what has been the journey of their book? Now, maybe Barnabas Vin as a Grandmaster Jedi is much more important than a bounty hunter Wookiee character. I understand that it's apples to oranges here. But remember when this book was hot? And it was related to the what was it? The Boba Fett show. We had Black Chrysanthemum come out. Now you can find his book for $17 on eBay. Best offer. This person would probably take 10. And it's like, what was the potential for this book to be just because they showed up in a TV show? Similarly, Cad Bane. Remember, we got Cad Bane in the Mandalorian show? Now you can find his book for $50 right here. Do we think that Barnabas Vin is going to be able to show up in a show and not suffer the same fate that the Cad Bane book did, where, yeah, it gets hot, people get excited about it, and then it has its correction, and then you could buy it for a price half the value? I would actually say it would be kind of impressive to me if the Barnabas Vin book could get up to the value of the Cad Bane book. That would actually be a decent feat, but I suppose that's what people think, is the potential for this thing. You look at books like this, Star Wars Kanan, Last Padawan #1. There's a lot of things going on with this, right? You got Sabine. I think she's going to be in a show coming up. And you got Kanan, who has a little bit of a following. But when I see his book listed for $50, it just kind of begs the question. Would you really want to buy, $50 worth of Barnabas Vin when you can get a $50 Kanan book? This feels like a better use of your money. I don't know. Don't listen to me. I collect Darkhawk. What do I know? Maybe Barnabas Vin is the future. But when I think about this stuff, I think about like what is the real potential for Quest for the Jedi to hit some kind of value that we think that it could hit, right? Like if we think about characters like even Kanan, who hasn't shown up in a Star Wars movie, at least he was voiced by Freddie Prinze Jr. and was a part of the Clone Wars and built up his fandom to a certain degree, or similarly, Star Wars: The Clone Wars #1, first Ahsoka. This book is different because obviously people loved Ahsoka. People have been watching her for over 20 years in the cartoon. People have a fandom towards her. And now people are extremely excited that we get to see her on screen. But if we go over to, this character right here, who is a fan of Barnabas Vin? Have we had the emotional journey with him yet? Have we actually gone through the ringer, watched a cartoon with him, fell in love with this character to the point where we've created a very steady floor value for his book, to where when he does show up, if he does show up in a Disney Plus Star Wars TV show, then, the book can go up in value and people will actually want to buy it and people can, FOMO into it. I think that that's really what's so interesting about what we're seeing with the Star Wars High Republic books and all of these new characters and all these first appearances that are coming out. Are all of these characters going to show up in a Star Wars TV show or a Star Wars movie? And then is everyone going to FOMO into these books, or is the floor value going to be lifted tremendously for all of these books, for all of these characters? How do we know? How do we know? And this is just assuming that the TV show is going to be good. What if it's on the level of the Book of Boba Fett? And what if, Barnabas Vim's TV show debut is to the, execution level of Chrysanthemum, which, I'm sorry if you really liked Book of Boba Fett, but it was not up to par. It was not up to par. It actually probably hurt the value of that Darth Vader book. But what do we expect? What can we really expect? Will these books all go up in value because all of these characters are going to show up onto a movie? Just because they show up in the movie does not mean that the values of the books are going to go up. They might go up for that week or that time or that moment or that trailer, but over the long term, the book can only really go up in value if there's actually a fandom that is going to support the floor for it. And right now, a lot of these Star Wars High Republic books, I feel like, are all being bought based on speculation and not out of the purity of people enjoying the story and wanting to, read what these characters have going on. Now, again, like I said, I'm not a Star Wars expert. What do I know? Maybe the Star Wars High Republic story is the greatest one ever written. Maybe you guys can let me know in the comments. But I think it's pretty funny that everyone is betting the moon on this thing as much as Spider-Boy. They were betting on Spider-Boy last week. And, it's all under the guise that, we think that maybe one day this guy will cameo in a Mandalorian season number 18. Anyways, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. What do you guys think about the Star Wars book? What do you guys think about the Star Wars High Republic stuff? It feels like, again, week after week, we have all these first appearances of new Jedis, new characters, and frankly, I can't keep up. Do we think that any of these characters are actually going to hit? Are any of them going to go to the moon? Let me know in the comments, because I probably want to FOMO into those ones. Anyways, that's all I got for this video. Like, comment, subscribe. See you on the next one.